Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 3, Making Friends and Influencing People. I think this episode was definitely one that people were excited to see based on the preview last week. And in this one, they kind of did what they always do with previews, where what they make us think isn't the truth. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Simmons actually being a spy within S.H.I.E.L.D., I really enjoy. And actually, I think I like that way more because the dramatic reveal, which kind of would have been spoiled if it really was the story based on the preview, that dramatic reveal would have been interesting throughout the season, just like it was with Ward. Once it was revealed that he was working with Hydra, it was still interesting because he had stuff to do. But Simmons is a much different character. She's the scientist. She's one of the scientists of the group. So what she does is probably what she'd be doing in this episode, and it wouldn't be nearly as interesting, except for maybe some of the stuff that will actually be happening later on, because she's kind of proven herself, so she's going to be moving up in the ranks. But it was good to see that she wasn't actually working with S.H.I.E.L.D. It was really cool to see her kind of deal with being in Hydra, and also her going through the testing. And I love the fact that her big test is actually a callback to season one, and I really enjoyed that. Um, them bringing back a character that we saw when that episode ended. Like, this guy has superpowers, and we knew that he would come back because he ended up getting superpowers. So of course he'd have to come back into the series, and it was really cool. It was just like a cool connection between Fitz and Simmons, and how they're on the same side, but they're in on different sides. I guess literally speaking, they're on different sides, and they both kind of come together to try to save this guy. And of course, she has to prove herself to keep her cover, but she wants to help the guy, Donnie. And that was the one thing I didn't like about this episode, is that he did end up getting killed off. Like, I would have really enjoyed it. Like, even if he escaped somehow and he just kind of poof, he disappeared again or something, I would have enjoyed that. But it really sucks that he actually died, because he was the one person who got superpowers in this show. Well, actually, he's not the only person. He's I guess the second person who got superpowers in the show. But he came back. It was like it was an actual callback to season one. And unfortunately, at the end of this episode, he does get killed off, because we find out that he was actually already captured by Hydra at some point, and they brainwashed him. And they really went through that in this episode. And that was really cool. And that was something that we really got an explanation for. And it was something I mentioned in my last review. The guy who was like the main enemy for the premiere in last week's episode, when he was going through the issues that he was having when he picked up the device, and he was sitting on the bench with the guy, and he said the same lines he said in this episode, like, to comply brings rewards. He basically healed, and I mentioned, like, it seems like he just somehow has control over that guy's body, and basically he does, but it was just simple brainwashing. It wasn't any sort of crazy technology or weird super science or anything like that. It was just torture and brainwashing, and it was crazy to see. In the very beginning of the episode, they had Whitehall, and he's torturing this woman who throughout the episode is being tortured, and of course she gives in by the end of the episode, which really sucked, but that was kind of the only option. It was either that or death, but I don't think they're trying to kill anyone, because in this episode we really see they aren't just recruiting people, they're taking people. They aren't just saying, like, that person used to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., we need to take them out. They're saying that person was a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., we need to take them in and rewrite their code so that their special talents, their skills, and their memories and everything they know will work for us instead of against us. And so it was really cool to get that aspect of what Hydra's really doing. They aren't just trying to build their army, they're stealing from the other armies. So it was really cool to get that. And it was crazy. I hate seeing it when people have, like, for forced to keep their eyes open. That always kind of gets me. For some, visually it just always gets me. But for this episode, it was really simple. It was just like they put like little metal slits on their cheek, which is really simple compared to some of the other stuff I've seen in movies where they put like those actual clamps inside of people's eyes to keep them open. And that just drives me nuts seeing that. Like, just, you can't close your eyes. It's almost like being restrained. I don't like seeing that either. Or I can deal with that. I don't like having it happen to me. But it was like, they just had her eyes wide open. She couldn't blink. She was just standing there wide awake for who knows how long in front of just this TV with the same image repeating over and over. And it was just typical brainwashing. Just one image repeated they had the little ticking clock. I don't know the actual name of that, but that's often used for like hypnotherapy and stuff like that because it's just a constantly ticking sound that never changes or goes any faster or anything like that. So it's used to keep the beat going, and Whitehall says the same words over and over. So it was really they really drove home what Hydra is actually doing this season, and it was just really cool to get that. I really loved it. And even when it kind of fails, they can go back after the programming is kind of faulted a little bit, and they can still bring people in. And I don't know if Whitehall and the guy who is his subordinate are just it's because they're the ones that are always there. They're clearly the top two guys. So maybe that's why he had so much influence over Donnie when Simmons, she tried to do it, and it was working for a little bit. Then, of course, the gunshots went off and it stopped. But when he came down that hall and the guy just walked out, it was like him in the suit. He was just like, he knew who the guy was. He just said the same thing, and it was just like, it works. And I don't know if that is simple brainwashing, or maybe he does have some sort of, power that can influence people. But even if it's just simple brainwashing, it could just be the fact that Whitehall and this guy are the top two people, so they're always the ones that are doing sort of the brainwashing and interrogating. So it was a really great episode. We got to see, everyone found out that Simmons was the source inside of Hydra, so that was really cool. We got to see Sky really training in this episode. She was kind of, she used a sniper rifle in this episode. They kept doing like the heart rate thing, which went up by the end when she really found out about her father. And I really love that. I was really hoping that that's what Ward was going to say, because every time he's about to, he gets cut off. And it almost happened in the middle of this episode when they were starting to talk, and he mentioned how every family has its secrets. He was like, including yours. And then Sky cuts him off again. I was like, crap. And I was hoping he would say, I was like, just say, like, I know where your father is or something. And he's just like, your father's alive and he's looking for you. And I was like, that's great. Now that it's actually out there, they've planted that seed where she knows at least. So she's going to have that curiosity, and she's going to go back at some point, which we knew that was going to happen. But it's been said now, so it makes it a little bit better. We don't have to guess how far away it's going to be. And because it's been planted, it has to be sooner. So that was really cool in this episode. Ward also had another part, and this was the best part of the episode for me. Like, Fitz has been giving the best moments in this season so far, and this one was unbelievable. Like, I loved it when they introduced him in this season, and we saw the issues he was having, especially at the end with the reveal that he was actually imagining Simmons. But in this one, when he saw Ward and he had his suspicions, he knew they were keeping stuff from him, and he goes down and he sees Ward, he just freaks out, and he's like hyperventilating almost, and he even tortures Ward a little. He like drains the oxygen. That was it was just an amazing scene. Like, it was very, very well acted on both sides. Like, Ward, in the state that he's in, he already went through his sort of suicidal stage. He's in the stage where he wants to make things right with the people that he hurt, and he wants to make things right with Sky, which we see every time he talks to her. He wants to tell her, like, I know your father's alive. He probably doesn't know exactly where he is, but he knows that her father's alive. So it's like he wants to give her something that'll possibly make her feel better in the future. And when he sees Fitz in this episode, he's almost at a loss for words. Like, he wants to say, like, I'm sorry and stuff, and he can't really say anything because, of course, Fitz stops him and then kind of drains his oxygen for a little. But that was an amazing scene. It was my favorite part of the episode, without a doubt. It was just very well acted. It didn't need to go any longer than it did. I was gonna say I wish it did, but it really was the perfect length. There really isn't much. Like, it was just Fitz kind of losing it, actually seeing the person that did this to him. It was just an amazing scene. So I really loved that scene. It was my favorite part of the episode. But I definitely did enjoy the entire thing. It was really cool to get to see Simmons, and we know what's happening with her, and now she's going to be moving up in the ranks. We also got to see more of the team dynamics. The new guy, I can't think of his name at this moment, but he mentioned how with his old friends, he knew what they did or didn't do when they would, do a mission and possibly kill someone. So he's trying to learn about the team and become a real part of the team, so he knows the ins and outs of how people may or may not feel if they have to do something that they aren't exactly used to. So I thought that was a pretty cool part of the episode. I'm really enjoying Mac, who's the guy who was actually playing Xbox in this episode. He's still trying to work with Fitz, and he still helps him out. I just really like his character because of that, because he's the one there who he like does the inventory, and I'm guessing he's like the mechanic. We saw him working on the car in the premiere, so I think that's what he does. He's almost like their engineer. Um, so it's really cool to see him really help Fitz and try to do whatever he can to basically help him complete his sentences. So I really enjoy that. He's a pretty cool character in that aspect. We haven't gotten a lot out of him yet, but I like what we have out of him. He's a cool guy, so I'm excited to see him get more time in this season. And I always love a video game reference in any series, especially when it's a real one and they don't use like stupid those little fake controllers. So that was nice. He was playing Gears of War. He mentioned actual enemies from Gears of War. I'm pretty sure though, yeah, those are actual enemies, and he had an actual Xbox controller. It wasn't like they were playing the Xbox or playing a fake, CG game or anything. But it was a great episode. We got to see some great powers used. When Donnie was in the beginning of the episode, he like froze a couple people. His powers were actually really cool, and that's one of the things. That was another reason I hated it. And they mentioned that they didn't find his body. I don't know if that's to kind of give a hint, like maybe he did survive, because his body did freeze when he was going down. He could be in like some super crazy ice stasis type of thing. I don't know, but I loved how his powers worked, because I don't think I've ever seen ice powers really work that way, where he could touch stuff. Like when he was freezing the boat, he just touched the. I can't remember. I don't know the actual name of the thing, but what you tie the boat to, of course, he froze that, and it actually went down the actual chain or down the rope, and it froze all of the water and froze the bottom of the boat. And like when he was at the end of the episode, he was on the deck of the boat, and he touched the top, and the ice would literally just freeze all the way down the boat. I don't That was really cool to me, because I never seen anyone have ice powers where they could touch something like across the room, and it will just spread all the way to you. And if you're touching like the wall or you're holding on to it, the ice will just spread to you. It's almost like electricity. If you wet or something and something gets electrocuted, it'll just travel. It can be however far away it needs to be. It's gonna travel to what it wants to, and it'll get to you. So I really enjoyed that. The part when he did the table, I think, was my favorite, just because it looked really cool, and he was kind of having like a stare down with the two agents, and the guy was trying to calm him down, and he thought he was fine, and he just touched the table, and it like shot over to him, and it completely froze him. I thought that was really cool. But I loved his powers. I do hope he's in some crazy super powered stasis and he does come back at some point. But this was definitely a great episode. Of course, comment below, let me know what you guys thought about it. Your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And now that we've seen Simmons inside of Hydra, how do you guys think she's going to be able to help out S.H.I.E.L.D? What do you think that she's going to be shown and given that will help the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents take on Hydra and hopefully take them out completely? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.